Imagine the sun is going down, and there is nothing you can do to stop it. No lamp, no switch, no screen glowing in your pocket. In a few minutes, you won't be able to see your own hands. And somewhere out there in the dark, something that hunts by night has just woken up, and it can see you perfectly. For 300,000 years, this happened to your ancestors every single evening. And how they survived those 10 hours of blindness might be the most overlooked survival story in human history. Because for almost all of human history, night wasn't rest, it was a siege. The sun didn't set on a hard day of work and gently signal bedtime. It set on the single most dangerous stretch of every 24 hours, a problem that had to be solved again and again, every night, for hundreds of thousands of years. And the strange part is that almost everything they invented to survive it is still running quietly inside you right now. Tonight you'll end the day by pressing a button. The room fills with light. You'll lock a door, close a window, maybe check that the phone that woke you up is charging beside your bed. Then you'll lie down in the dark on purpose, close your eyes, and lose consciousness for 8 hours in a building nothing can get into. And you won't think about it once. That's not normal. That is one of the youngest luxuries our species has ever had. To understand how new it really is, you have to start with the reason the dark was so terrifying in the first place. Humans are daylight animals. Our eyes are built for color and fine detail in bright light, fantastic for spotting ripe fruit and reading a friend's face, and nearly useless the moment the sun goes down. But the animals that wanted to eat us had the opposite eyes. Leopards, lions, hyenas. Most of the great predators hunt at night, and their eyes gather light ours can't even register. So every evening, the whole world flipped. During the day, we were the clever ones. At night, we were just slow, soft, half-blind meat, and we have the fossils to prove it. At a site in South Africa called Swartkrans, researchers found the skull of a young member of an early human species with 2 clean puncture holes punched through the bone. When they measured the distance between them, it matched the lower canines of a leopard almost perfectly. That child had been killed the way leopards still kill today, seized by the head and hauled up into a tree to be eaten in peace. For a very long time, we weren't sitting at the top of the food chain. We were something a big cat carried home for dinner. So how do you survive a predator you can't see? For our earliest ancestors, the answer was simple. Get off the ground. Watch a chimpanzee today and you'll see the original version of it. Every single evening, they climb up into the trees and weave a fresh nest of bent branches, a brand new one, every night, high up where a leopard can't easily follow. Our ancestors almost certainly did the same thing for millions of years. The ground was where you died. The canopy was the bedroom. But then we did something that should have gotten us killed. We came down. As our bodies changed and we started walking and living out on open ground, sleeping in trees stopped being an option. And that left us with a problem that sounds impossible. How do you sleep? Unconscious, defenseless, for hours, lying on the exact ground where everything hunts you. For a while, there may have been no good answer at all. And then someone solved it with the most important tool in human history. Fire. We tend to think of fire as warmth and cooked food, and it was both of those. But its first and maybe greatest job was something else entirely. It bought back the night. There's evidence of humans controlling fire going back at least 1 million years at Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa. And clear, repeated hearths, the same spot burned over and over, at Kasem Cave in Israel around 300,000 years ago. And a fire does something no spear ever could. It draws a circle. Inside that circle there is light, so you can finally see. There is heat, so you don't freeze. And there is a flickering, crackling wall of flame that almost every predator on Earth is instinctively terrified of. Fire was the first home security system. It didn't kill the thing in the dark. It just convinced the dark to keep its distance. And here's where it gets interesting, because fire didn't only protect the night. It invented a brand new time to be human. Before fire, sundown ended everything. After fire, the hours after dark became something no other animal had ever owned. A warm, safe, glowing pocket of time with nothing to do but be together. So people talked, they taught, they told stories. A huge amount of what we'd call culture, myth, memory, the handing of knowledge from the old to the young, was almost certainly born in exactly those hours, in the one place the darkness couldn't reach. The campfire didn't just keep us alive. It's where we became us, but fire only solves half of it, because you still have to close your eyes. And sleep, real, deep, unconscious sleep, is the single most dangerous thing a prey animal can do. A fire buys you a safe circle, but a fire left alone burns out. So how does an entire group go unconscious in the dark without simply never waking up? The answer is so elegant that we only figured it out recently, and it is almost certainly happening in your own family right now. In 2017, a team of researchers spent their nights studying the Hadza, a group of hunter-gatherers in Tanzania who still sleep much the way our ancestors did. Outdoors, in a group, near a fire. They tracked the exact moments each person was asleep across the whole night, for weeks. And they found something remarkable. Across more than 200 hours of sleep, the total time when every single adult was asleep at the same moment added up to about 18 minutes. Almost always, somebody was awake, and nobody had been assigned to it. There was no night watch rota. It happened all by itself, because people of different ages are wired to sleep on different schedules. Older people tend to nod off early and wake in the small hours. Younger adults drift off late and want to sleep in. Teenagers are, as ever, a disaster for everyone. And when you throw all of those mismatched, broken sleep patterns together into one group around one fire, you get an accidental rotating guard that quietly covers the entire night, without a single person ever intending to. Think about that for a second. That relative who grumbles they can't sleep past 4 in the morning isn't broken. In a group sleeping out in the open, that person was a feature. Your restless, light-sleeping grandparents may be a big part of the reason your ancestors kept waking up at all, and the sleep itself looked almost nothing like yours. When scientists measured hunter-gatherer groups across Africa and South America, they found people sleeping around 6.5 hours a night, less than most of us manage, with no fixed bedtime, drifting off well after dark and waking before the sun. There was no 8 hours in one solid block rule. That rule is basically an invention of the modern world. In fact, for a huge stretch of history, people may have slept in 2 shifts. A first sleep after dark, then an hour or 2 awake in the dead of night, to feed the fire, talk quietly, keep half an eye out, then a second sleep until dawn. So if you've ever snapped awake at 3 in the morning, wide-eyed for no reason, and lain there convinced something is wrong with you, nothing is. You may just be running an ancient program that once kept the fire lit and the leopards at bay. Which brings us to the piece you inherited most directly of all. Fear of the dark is the most common fear on the entire planet, and it is strongest in children, the ones who, for most of history, were exactly the ones most likely to be dragged off in the night. That cold drop in your stomach when the lights cut out and you're suddenly, completely certain something is standing behind you, that is not weakness, and it is not an overactive imagination. It is a 300,000-year-old alarm, tuned by every single ancestor who felt that exact fear, listened to it, and edged a little closer to the fire. The ones who didn't feel it never lived long enough to become anyone's ancestor. And then, every morning, the sky turned gray, then gold. The predators slunk off to sleep. The world you could actually see came flooding back. We don't think of sunrise as a big deal anymore. It's just when the alarm goes off. But for nearly every human who ever lived, dawn was the sound of winning. You made it. Again. There is a reason almost every ancient culture on Earth worshipped the sun and told anxious stories about it one day failing to return. They weren't being dramatic. They had spent the entire night earning it. So here's the full picture. For 300,000 years, every human being faced the same enemy every single evening, and they beat it the same way. They climbed up into the trees. Then they learned to build the fire. They gathered inside its circle and turned the dark hours into the first classrooms and the first stories. They slept in staggered, broken shifts so that someone was always watching. They passed down a fear sharp enough to keep a child alive. And every single morning, they woke up and did the whole thing again. Because the only alternative was not waking up at all. So the next time the sun goes down and you turn night into day with the flick of one finger, the thing your ancestors would have traded almost anything to have, remember what that switch actually replaced. 10 hours of total blindness. A fire that someone had to keep alive. A ring of people sleeping in shifts around it. And somewhere out past the light, something that could see you perfectly, waiting. The night stopped being able to kill you so recently that your body still hasn't caught up. You get uneasy in a dark room. You feel calmer next to a fire. And somewhere deep down, you still feel relief when the sun comes up. That's not fear. That's memory. And it might just be the oldest thing you own. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you learned something new, be sure to give this video a like. Then let me know in the comments. Are you a late night owl or an early morning sentinel? Or do you ever wake up at 3 a.m. and wonder if it's just your ancient survival instincts kicking in? If you'd like to see more videos like this, consider subscribing so you don't miss future uploads. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.